Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions regarding this watch. Today we're discussing a model launched in 2021 from MB&F, Max Booser and Friends. This is the Legacy Machine Perpetual EVO. So it is the water-resistant, shock-resistant, luminescent, sports-oriented evolution of the collaboration with Stephen McDonnell that originally launched as the most complicated MB&F of all time back in 2015. This being the EVO model, it has a screw-down crown, water-resistant to 80 meters, a loomed dial, a slightly different profile to its grade 5 titanium case, a shock-resistant buffer, which we'll talk about in a moment, an annular shock absorber around the movement, slightly different lug and strap profiles to make it sportier. But it is still a substantial watch, and at 44 millimeters in diameter in grade 5 titanium, it stands 16.9 millimeters thick, and while it's obvious that the crystal is quite dramatically domed over the top, a little detail you might miss is that it's also slightly domed over the bottom. From lug tip to lug tip, the watch measures 54.4 millimeters. And you can see that the strap is both proprietary and fixed in place using screws. So I'm not going to give you a conventional measurement, as nothing about the strap is conventional. The strap, though, is a handsome piece and nicely matched the watch. You can see vulcanized rubber, no crimping, no gouging. It's got a little circle motif on the bottom with the MB&F branding. We've got G&F Chatelin's well-known double deployant leaf spring closure system. So we have a clasp that is like the watch, made of titanium, and as it closes, it snaps shut to make sure it will stay shut, and it only pops open when you pull it past the buckling point of the leaf spring, so it's quite secure even for a sports watch. We have a combination here of finishes, satin, media blast, and polish, plus the MB&F double-sided battle axe logo, which you will also find on the crown. The watch case is a little bit different from the Legacy Machine Perpetual. You can check out my video of the conventional Legacy Machine Perpetual, so you can take in all of the differences, but everything is different. The pusher profiles, the case sculpting, the recesses and taper of the lugs, the stepping of the lugs. This is a unique case. This is not just the Legacy Machine Perpetual with a strap. You can see that there's a lot going on here as we have a combination of satin, media blast, and polished facets. It is grade 5 titanium, which means lighter than steel, hypoallergenic, and also harder to scratch than both grade 2 titanium and of steel, so more durable than conventional steel. We have a screw-down crown here. And interesting fact, when you're screwing the crown back in case you've already wound the watch to its maximum capacity, as it screws in, it disengages from the winding mechanism, so you can't overwind as you screw the crown down into the secure position. And all this does have 80-meter water resistance with a screw-down crown, so you're definitely safe to swim in this. Taking a quick look, one of the surprises, because it's not obvious to the eye, but the watch is actually quite well loomed, and particularly when the light is freshly out, you can read even the calendar indications. Underneath, an enormously vaulted sapphire that comprises about 1/3 of the entire thickness of the watch, maybe even a little bit more. We have an extraordinary array of displays: hours and minutes, date, leap year phase, month, power reserve indicator, and day. It is a perpetual calendar, and we'll just demonstrate some of the functions and features here. It's a unique construction by Irish watchmaker Stephen McDonnell, who rethought the perpetual calendar mechanism as a whole. I will wind this watch. I just want you to get a good look at the balance before it starts moving. So his idea was to create, instead of a grand lever system with a program wheel and a large lever, a mechanical processor that uses a base 28-day month instead of a base 31-day month, and the mechanical processor sits right there. It is underneath. If you look at where the date hand is pointing, it's pointing right underneath the underlying structure that is the mechanical processor. So by using a 28-day month, we have a more compact system that's not based on a large wheel and lever arrangement. It's not to say the movement is small, it's designed to fill the case, it's just to say that it's not dominated by the programming mechanism for the calendar. You can also make adjustments using the individual pushers for each of the calendar displays. Now take a quick look. You can see that while the day adjusts independently, when I make adjustments to the date, I am also adjusting the day. So just make sure as you adjust this system, you adjust everything in the proper sync. Otherwise, you will do a lot of extra work. And you can see it also drives the month as well. Now, of course, we also have a setting mechanism for the month, and we have a setting mechanism for the leap year. So very friendly to use, and you don't have to worry about, for example, on an IWC or JLC perpetual calendar, setting it too far ahead because everything is circular. This sequence just resets. Now we have 72 hours of power reserve manually wound by means of a twin mainspring barrel arrangement on the reverse of the watch. You can see that balance, which was free sprung. It has variable inertia screws on its rim. That means it can be very precisely adjusted by means of those screws, and shock or concussion won't change the timing of the watch. Now, the balance is huge. It is 14 millimeters in diameter, which is absolutely colossal for a balance. So while it doesn't have a high beat rate, it's 2.5 hertz, it doesn't need one because the sheer amount of mass involved. To make a watch more precise, or potentially more precise, you can raise the beat rate or you can increase the mass and inertia of the balance. That's what Max did here. So free sprung, there is an overcoil hairspring shaped by hand, so in every position conceivable, you will get concentric breathing of the overcoil and consistent timekeeping or isochronous performance on the wrist. We also have a full dual-anchored balance bridge, which means it's further braced against shock, and you can see that the bridge, like every component of every legacy machine, is extravagantly decorated. Its form is anything but tubular. You can see how it swells as it anchors to the dial, which is also a play to the movement. All mirrored, all rounded, very difficult to execute. You can see the enormous size of the balance staff, or the axis on which the balance sits. And like the legacy machine split escapement, you have the escapement with the anchor and the escape wheel on the back of the watch. You could see the name of Stephen McDonnell. You could see the size of the movement, properly sized for the case with the nickel anthracite coating, 41 joules, 581 parts. We'll get back to that in just a moment. On the dial, you can see emerald green on the dial base. Now, this is accomplished using a process that's more and more common in the watch industry to apply bright colors, which is called CVD, or gas-based chemical vapor deposition. A little bit different than PVD. It can be used to transfer bright colors more efficiently because it's not a line of sight technique. It envelops the surface in gas and then evenly coats in color. All these pieces, look at that little hairspring for the power reserve indicator. They're beautifully hand finished. Look at the base of each jumper spring for these calendar systems. You can see how they've been satinated on their tops, beveled on their sides. All screw heads are black polished with chamfered slots in circumference, and you can see even the locating pegs to place the springs on the plate below have been polished on their tops. It is a truly impressive display of finishing virtuosity and attention to detail. Kari Voutilainen was the original friend on the first legacy machine back in 2011, and although he is not named on this watch, Stephen McDonnell is right there, nevertheless, Voutilainen's standards still obtain. So we have two solarized ratchet wheels, we have a solarized crown wheel, we have beveling that is shockingly broad, rounded, and mirrored, we have golden chaton cups for the pivot jewels, as we would find on a pocket watch. We have stripes across the bridges, perfectly aligned with a nice shaded gradient. You could see that we have this gorgeous spring for the click, and the click itself micro-finished on its side, satinated on its top. The wheels have been satinated on their faces and then internally beveled. And with 5-spoke wheels, 2 sides, 5 spokes, that's 40 interior angles per wheel. It is deeply impressive. And this watch is deeply impressive on every level. A shocking amount of content. Even at 44 millimeters, it almost seems like this watch is compact for what it accomplishes. And it is going to be a scarce piece. Just because it's now more durable does not mean it will be any more common. This is one of the rarest yearly offers from MB&F. And one last note, I mentioned earlier a shock resistance system. There is a full circumferential rubber buffer between the movement and the case that makes this Perpetual EVO an even more viable sports watch. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.